All right. Hey there, everybody. It's your boy, Marcus Holmes, the blended family guy, with my amazing wife, Crystal Holmes. Why don't you say hello to the
Good evening, everyone. How is everyone this evening? I hope we all are having a great evening like we are.
How are you doing today?
I'm having a great day.
How was your week?
It was a good week, just a long week. But
it was a long week?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It was a quick week, but it just seemed like it was quick and long. Can you be quick and long at the same time?
Yeah, but the Astros won, though.
Oh, yeah.
Boom. Y'all see that? 2017 champions.
We won. In line for his, so y'all.
Yeah. We stood in line for 6 hours for this hat. That's right. That's what we do.
I hadn't done anything ridiculous like that in a long time, so we just thought we'd join the late night bandwagon. So that was fun.
Yeah, it's 6 hours worth of fun. 11:30 to 5:30 a.m. We wanted to join in the hysteria.
Sleeping in Dick's Sporting Goods.
You got it. So, wanted to really let you guys know that we're so happy that you're either watching live or the rebroadcast. But give you a little background on the blended family guy. What we are wanting to do is help blended families, whether it's the traditional blended family, kids from you're in a new relationship, you have children from a prior relationship and you're bringing them into a new one, or if you're adopting across and bringing a new person into the family. All those things are what the blend is about. It's about work-life harmony, work-life balance. All of those things come into play in having a successful family. So our goal is to continue to push the envelope, help provide resources so that you can do all you can do to be the best family you can be. And so we have some really great topics. We're very transparent. We're trying to teach you from our mistakes so you know how to survive and not only survive, but to thrive. Anything else on top of that, Crystal?
No, just that's what it's all about.
Okay.
Being open and transparent.
Open and transparent.
Real.
Okay, so today's show is going to be, I think, a pretty amazing one. This is the first time we've had a special guest, and the gentleman's name is Brian Jones. Brian Jones. I went to school with Brian at North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University's Aggie Pride.
Aggie Pride.
Coming on Earth. Best marching band in the world.
That's homecoming.
Pride for you. So that's where I met Brian. Great guy. Does a great deal of work in the school system, but he is also a foster parent. Now, I want to say this because this is where the talk is going to center. Brian is single. So he is a bachelor, ladies. So if there's any ladies out there that are good. And I'm talking about good in terms of you understand that this gentleman believes in responsibility, accountability, and operating by the Bible's standards. He is a foster parent, and he is a great one at that. I believe, Brian, over the last, let's just say 10, 15 years you've been a foster parent. How many kids do you think have lived with you over that course of time? 15, 20, 30?
It's got to be 30 by now. 30.
Wow. Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and bring Brian in, people. And Brian and people, just to let you know, the point of today's show, we're going to be talking about adoption, which is one part of being a blended family. But we're also going to be talking about adoption when you're adopting across racial lines or ethnic lines, right? So Brian, and I know he has to be in the very small percentage of Black parents that have adopted outside of their race, which I think is just, wow. I think it's a pretty cool dynamic, and that's why we wanted to have him on the show. So this is going to be pretty amazing. I'm excited about this. So great topic. We want your questions. Come on through. This is going to be some good stuff. So I want to go ahead and bring Brian into the show.
And if you know someone that would be impacted by this, please tell them to get on right now.
That's right. That's right.
About to be good.
That's right. That's right. This is about to be good. So here, let me watch out, babe. We got to get a little closer. I need you to get a little closer. A little closer. There we go. There we go. Here, let's do it this way. Thank you, honey. All right, there we go. I think now they got us both. Now they got us both on this one, honey. That's the one they look at. So, all right, Brian. So give us a little background about yourself, why you decided to become a foster parent. First off, what brought you to want to start doing that?
Well, I've been in the school system for 16 years. The way I started out was, of course, as I still am, a school social worker. So around about the second or third year, some coworkers and myself noticed that kids were snatched up due to either a parent dying, something happening within the family where DSS had to get involved. And on many occasions, despite what we're used to seeing on TV shows like The Waltons and Little House on the Prairie, it's not easy to take children in your home and to get DSS to allow that. So what happened was one child in particular who was really going through, after he was moved, did not want to be moved, did not want to live with family. A few of us, one teacher was already doing foster care, and the rest of us decided to have a conversation and said we would do the same. So, of course, you know, the average teacher works 2 jobs. Although I'm not a teacher, I'm still considered an educator. So, long story short, I said, why not? I would prefer to come home and work in my home than to continue to go and work retail, whether that be in the mall, whether that be or fast food or whatever the case may be. So I decided to start doing adoption, and that is how it came about. And that was like 13 years ago.
Wow.
The first one it was like a twofold. I mean, you know, there's income that's involved in this, but then also at the same time, it's about the decision to bring in children into your home with, and I think first the passion was because number one, you saw something. You saw something at school, but being around these children, because I never even thought about, and I think that's so powerful, I never even thought about death. Like when something like that happens in a home and then the children have to be dispersed because, you know, there isn't a secondary or maybe like a plan wasn't put in place. So that's making me say something right now that, you know, we as parents, we need to think about those plans in advance because we don't want our children to be put in a situation where it is not, first of all, where it may not be up to them because of their age, you know, where they don't have the choice, or where maybe the person that is secondary or second in command, I guess you say, in the household may not mean them the best, you know, and because of the system, because you didn't put something in place on paper or legal, you get yourself in a situation where these children are now having to be under the, like you said, you know, the foster system. So
that's right.
Absolutely. And Marcus, just to clarify something, she made a good point. I don't just do foster care, I do private foster care. So the income is a little bit different. One of the things that keeps people from doing foster care or adoption is the lack of support. So a lot of people are discouraged. So because I was going to do foster care, I decided to do the private simply because it gave more income. So some of the kids that I was taking in, the income provided an opportunity for me to expose them to things that I couldn't do on a teacher salary.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay. Okay. Now, no, and see, so y'all have to understand. Brian has a house full of kids, but Brian, I want to take it a step further. Now there might be a little feedback. I don't know do you have me I'm wondering if I'm hearing a little feedback. That might be it. I think it sounds better. I want to know, Brian, what took you from having all these foster kids, right, that you've cared for over the years? What brought you to wanting to adopt James?
Well, you know James, but everyone else does not. It was the easiest decision.
Wow.
In the very beginning, simply because when he first came, it was divine. I consider it divine intervention. Not to go into detail, but I knew at some point in time I was going to adopt someone. But the first week that he came, there was a difference with him than many of the other kids.
Okay.
But the number one reason, which I always tell people, is because I knew that if I let him go and stay in the system, he would not speak up for himself, that he was prone to be abused. He depended so much on me, and so much on my mom at that time, that just the thought of him going somewhere else, and being violated, I felt too much guilt, too much conviction. So I made up the mind before DSS ever offered, before the guardian ad litem ever spoke with me. I made up my mind that if he is up for adoption, I'm going to keep him. And that's how that came about.
Wow.
So Brian and Chris, did you have any questions? Did you have a question?
I mean, I was just thinking about, just random things for people who may be on here that are just not, they don't have a lot of knowledge about the foster system. Maybe, there's a mother and father on here that have, biological children they birthed together. Maybe there's someone on here who's never had children and never even considered fostering, or maybe there's someone on here who has. And I think what you do is you bring such a wealth of knowledge and information. And since we've known you, there has been so much, because this was not an easy journey. You are sitting here with us, and I don't want people to think that we're talking to someone who, this was just, he's adopted a child, and it was just flowers everywhere, and every child that came to his home, was just fine. And, it was like Orphan Annie, It's a Hard Knock Life, but they were all sweet and they didn't have issues. But I can just remember when we would get together at Christmas and come down, and, when we would exchange conversations, and I would just be like, wow, when I think about the effects of the abuse and what you had to then take. So in other words, someone came to you from a previous experience of some type of just, ridiculous abuse, whether it be verbal or physical and emotional abuse, and then they're coming in, and because of the household and the way that you structure your home and the loving environment that you provide, it was almost like a detox for them if they were able to receive that. But that detox is just like when you hear about any drug addict, it's not easy, because you hear about them. And I just remember all the, different things that went on, and but I believe that you planted so many seeds, man. I think about, it was extreme even to build up to where we are now with James, so it's not an easy journey. And I look forward to you authoring your first book about this whole journey, because Absolutely. I believe what you're going to do, I thought I plugged that in there, is you're going to really help people to even, have a heart to reach out, for children. When you think about, the death thing, I'm still on that. Because I guess that's something that I just didn't consider, that, oh my goodness, when you hear about a tragedy, you automatically assume, the children are okay. No, right. Not always the case.
That's right. Brian, so when you adopted James and you took that, and I say it's a leap of faith, because the Bible says that, we are to take care of the widowed and the orphans, right? And how did it make you feel? One, you had done a plethora of foster kids, and you still are. So for those of you out there, Brian, even though he's adopted James, he is still having foster kids come through his home, and he's providing a haven of rest, a haven of safety. But Brian, I want to ask you the real stuff. Hey there, Ebony, how are you doing? Ebony, we got a fellow Aggie on the line, and Brian Jones.
I know Ebony was not an Aggie. Do
Ebony
not mess that
no,
up.
but no. What I'm saying is I'm an Aggie, and I have a fellow Aggie on the line. Okay,
Ebony.
I know Ebony went to UNCG.
Oh, she's the other Ebony. Then.
Yes.
All right. So Ebony, no, seriously, glad to have you on. Talking about a really serious topic. I think that really a lot of people don't understand or don't want to talk about, right? so Ebony says she's no Aggie. Okay, Ebony. All right, I got you. All right, I get it.
Spartan spirit.
All right. So Brian, how did, when you let the foster care system know that you were wanting to adopt James, what kind of how did that go? What was the dialogue like? What did that dynamic look like? And guys, I think everybody on the show can see Brian is an African-American brother. Yeah. James is Caucasian. He's white. Love James. He's our nephew. All right. Brian, when he comes into town, Houston, to visit, brings James. James is family. That's like my son. That's my nephew. He's family. That's how we treat him. And so, Brian, I want to know, how did you manage that? And first off, before how did you manage it? Tell us what types of things you faced when you let the world know, right, that you were wanting to adopt James.
On many levels. You hear the feedback?
Nope, you're good.
Okay. Well, I'm getting feedback. Is that okay?
No, you're fine. You sound clear as a whistle.
Okay, so James came to me August the 2nd, 6 years ago. My family reunion was 2 days later. So the whole family met him after being with me for 2 days. That made it easy. That was the easiest transition for the whole family to come and see James. And so James basically grew with the family because the family had just reconnected. And this was maybe the second family reunion that we have had since the 80s. So that transition, believe it or not, was easy. That was nothing but God. James is 15. He will be 16 December 6th.
Okay, so you said 6 years ago, so he was about 10.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So yeah. So that part was easy. However, in the school system, I had friends, I had associates in the community. I believe everybody was cool with it. Maybe one or two relatives may have said to think about it, which of course none of them say anything now. I can't say any of my colleagues had a problem with it. I just got to be honest, but dealing with DSS was a task, because although I worked for a private agency, he was in DSS custody then. Okay. And it was challenging. His social
challenges, yeah.
His social worker, the situation was very nitpicking. It was just a lot of nitpicking, to the point to where I felt like they didn't want me to adopt him. And I became quite angry. And I asked on several occasions. So I had to actually ask my agency to find out why so much inquiry into every little thing that I'm doing. The other thing is what was really challenging, and I hope I'm answering your question.
No, you are. Go ahead. Yeah, this is, yeah.
The agency actually told me, I'm putting them out there. Now, mind you, I got a lot of good friends at DSS, especially here in my county. But this person in particular tried to tell me how I was going to run my life. So they actually told me that if I was dating, that if James didn't like them, that I need to take that in consideration. What single parent doesn't know that? What single parent is not grown and doesn't know that already, and then had the audacity to say, because there was one that he did not like, well, you got to take that in consideration. You might need to think about, moving on. So they overstepped their boundaries on many occasions. So it made me second guess, do I want to take this kid? Because he is a child. Am I going to be under this scrutiny simply because he is white? Because again, I could not come to any conclusion why so much scrutiny. Any and everybody else that I know that's been adopted in the neighborhood, whether it was interracial adoption, whether it was their own race, I never heard of such nitpicking. So it was difficult. It was my own trial, so to speak.
Interesting.
So,
Interesting.
Because I was already thinking, I said, well, was it because of, because the adoption, has it been 3 years now? Or how long has it been?
You know, I really don't know, simply because he was mine from day one.
Well, I guess because I'm just trying to pinpoint like his age, because then again, you know, I'm thinking like, was he 13?
He was 9
like
at the time, right? You said you had him 6 years, so he was 9.
But when the adoption was official, I think he was like 13. Okay. I think he was around that age, 13 or 14. Because I remember. Mm-hmm.
Well, no, I think she's right. It was in October.
Yeah,
but let me tell you, because being a male, and I said I wouldn't forget, but I've already forgotten what year it was. But again, he was already so intertwined into the family that I just wanted the court procedure to finish. Parents' rights being being terminated. Once all that ended, then they had an appeal, so it stayed for a good year and a half, and then of course you have to go. So yeah, everything was lasted for a year and a half. Then you have to go through the legal procedure. Once you're given the okay, go forth. So I'm not quite sure why it took so long, but it took a very long time.
Interesting.
And I mean, you know, we don't want to make assumptions here, but we just know that, I mean, we're dealing with an interesting blend here. We're dealing with a blend that doesn't normally get discussed a lot.
That's right.
Or even on social media. You know, there's a lot of conversations about celebrities, you know, that are Caucasian, adopting, you know, races that are outside of their own, you know, whether it be Asian or African American, or someone adopting from Africa, you know, like not American, but from another country. But you never hear of this situation, Brian. You never really hear, especially as a male, that you are coming in and fathering another male, and this male is not African American, and you are highly qualified in so many ways, not only to father, and we know that from, you know, out of relationship, because I said, my God, I mean, the counseling background that you've had, and you know, I believe even when I went into like being a teacher, you know, they told us teachers are counselors, you know, but a lot of times, you know, a lot of teachers don't want to counsel now, but back in the day, teachers were counselors. Like, they had the opportunity to really get to know their kids. And I think you really had a chance to get to know a lot of kids, and you still are, but then it's helped in a huge way, you know, other elements of your life to be able to just pour in and really help them. Now look, we're doing the same thing. Major's over here. Look,
I'm sorry,
over here trying to go in his Halloween candy. I'm about to throw it away.
So y'all,
it's about to get thrown away because he knows he's only supposed to have 3 pieces, and that's it.
So y'all just know this is a real show.
Yes.
Our son, he's sneaking Halloween candy.
That's why I said we were going
to
take the
whole
bucket
he thinks I'm not going to stop this show and talk to him about him trying to sneak candy. So I just want y'all to know, look, this is a household. We don't try to portray perfect. Our son is right here begging for some Halloween candy, and that's it. He's been trying to sneak while we've been on the Facebook Live. But Brian, question.
Yeah. Thank you.
Look.
How do you manage the dynamic, right? Tell us, I think you had shared with us earlier that James, he feels safe.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the point I want to make is, Brian, it shouldn't matter what race a child is. Children need love. Children don't see color. We as adults are the ones who see color. We're the ones who teach hate and racism.
Right.
But a child just wants safety. So help us out with that, because I think there's this tendency, there's this underlying thought stream that, you know what, if you're Black, then you ought to be adopting Black. And if you're white, you ought to be adopting white. And I think that's so far from what God would have us, because God didn't say you need to be adopting your own race in the Bible. He just said, take care of the children.
Yes.
Suffer the little children and forbid them not. So Brian, tell me how, if somebody is out there listening and they're Black and they want to adopt outside of their race, or they're white and they want to adopt outside of the race, what coaching could you provide them? What's a few points of power that you could give them?
Well, you know, one of the main concerns whenever you talk about adoption and you talk about more than one race, everyone is always worried, will they raise a child according to their own experience, which what parent doesn't do that? Will you let them be true to their race, true to their culture? And so that in and of itself was a challenge, but not as hard as people think it would be. So take, for example, I wasn't going to raise him to be Black, but mind you, he has asked a few times, can he be Black? That's what a child does, right? When children begin to notice that there's a difference, they ask, well, why can't we be this, or why can't we all be the same? So the hard part about it, the hardest part about it was me doing his hair. Let's just be real, Marcus. As a man, I tried the best I could with his hair. Let me tell you, my friends have called me out on several occasions because I wasn't doing the right thing, but he didn't know that conditioning was not the same thing as shampoo. So you have to deal, it's the same thing you deal with other parents when they call you and say, you know, your child is over here doing this, or your child came out of the house dressed like this. It's the same exact thing, but I got called out mostly on his hair. Either his hair was too greasy, and they think that I'm making him use my hair products, which I did.
Wow.
Or I was told I made him look like Opie many times, which he was cute to me. He was a precious little thing.
So look, I was right there in the midst of this conversation. So I have to go back because that's funny. And I'm gonna tell you why, because I think on the other side, Brian, I know a lot of people that are parenting African Americans and they are feeling the same way.
Yes.
With the challenges of I don't know what to do. And I hope that I get a chance to share this story to help some of my friends that are, you know, dealing with that, because I'm gonna tell you something. One of the things that hit me is that we have to, for the sake of the children, go to someone. Like if you don't know, then it's like, well, you know, let's find somebody with blonde hair that's similar texture, similar thing of his,
right?
And find out let's go to Paul Mitchell, let's go to the mall, and let's look, just show me what. And it's even the same way with African Americans. And I think what I love about what you said is that you're not raising him. He's getting the opportunity to see another culture that's outside of his as a family. He's being connected to that. But at the same time, you're telling him, now, this is not who you are, but I'm going to help you to still be able to see who you are through your own eyes. But in this, because I think that's so important. I mean, you don't get African American children and then say, okay, I'm going to raise them to be Caucasian. That I don't know. I mean, how do you feel about that? I struggle with that.
Now, that is an issue. Mind you, and I know some friends who are actually, there's a set of friends now where they are raising two African American children. They do a wonderful job. I'm trying to remember, they asked me about the hair products. I have been asked before by maybe white females who has a biracial child, whether of their own through birth or through adoption, what to do. But it's a simple conversation. The only time it's a problem is because I'm a male, maybe a female who happens to be white, although they're my friends, but because they assume, not because I'm Black, but assume because I'm a male, I don't know what to do with the child's hair. So that's the simplest form. It gets more extreme, which I think Marcus was going toward, and that is where how do people feel about me raising a child? The stares, the looks, am I going to be stopped because I have a Caucasian child? And by the grace of God, I have not. Now, I've had double takes before. The last time we flew to California, and I think I had a law enforcement officer while I was traveling who spoke, but when he saw James was on the other side of the car, he was quite professional. He pulled up, turned around, kept smiling, waving at us, checking his computer at the same time, just to make sure there wasn't an alert out, and but he didn't bother us. And so I just tell James, please speak, please wave, which he always had a problem with, and that presented a problem. Boy, turn around, look at them, wave and speak. This is not the time to be shy, son. Let them know you're okay.
Well, you know, I think that's again, I think eye-opening coming from the other, because I'm pretty sure, and I want the world to understand. I have Caucasian friends that have adopted African American children, and they love those kids.
Absolutely.
As their own, would die for them, do anything for them. But I'm almost for certain 100% of the time they never have to go through that. They don't ever have to worry about a cop wondering if there's something going on there. But in the opposite range with you do.
Right.
And man, I mean, that's humbling, Brian, but still it shows, like, you know, my son, he's playing basketball right now and he knows better. And so he knows that he needs to give me that ball because we're trying to have this Facebook Live and he has his candy and boy, I'm doing great. So Brian, I think that shows again a level of humility, but it also shows a level of commitment to you, to your son. And one thing I've never heard you say is, this is my foster son. This is my son by adoption. You say James is your son. And that is a beautiful thing that goes beyond the level of just a superficial name on some papers. And,
Yes.
and you know, so
Marcus, let me speak to what you something you said, because I did forget to mention that it is very unfair. I have seen in society, I have walked into Walmart while another family is walking out. I'm walking in with my son, who happens to be white. They're walking out with their kids, foster or their children by law, that are African American, and they'll be spoken to, and then they stare at me, and I'm like, okay, what is the difference? We know what goes on in America. We know what all has happened, what has happened throughout history. I'm not calling America racist, but we already know we have issues that we still have not overcome yet. So while it's humbling, being an African American male, what all have we not already had to deal with? So I just out of it. Does that make sense? I chose not to be so defensive all the time and said, I'll just deal with it. Because the most important thing was, and plus I didn't need him to see that. You know, I don't know, Marcus, do you remember my foster kid? Of course, I can't say last name, Billy.
yeah, I remember Billy.
I remember Billy.
Billy came maybe 3 years before James, maybe 2 years before James. It frustrated him to death. He could not stand the stairs. He saw them before I would in many ways. So it was the way that God had to deal with me. I was like, am I going to get caught up in society, or am I going to stick with the word of God, like you said, and take care of this orphan, make him mine, and move on? And so that's why I chose. You know, the Bible even tells us too. I don't remember how it states it, not to be so offensive, to make sure you're not constantly on the defense. So, and Brian,
you know, I'm now Ebony has a question for you. Before we answer that, I want to say something that I think is true. One, I think America has become way too hypersensitive over racial issues. I'm talking about white and black, across all cultures. Across all cultures, we've just become way too hypersensitive. And you're right, Brian. We need to learn that, you know what, not everything requires a statement on social media. Not everything requires us to just totally just become so sensitive and react. So kudos to you. Secondly, let's go ahead and answer Ebony's question. What does James ask you when they stare, Brian?
The good thing about him, unlike Billy, who I've missed, I haven't talked to him in a while. He usually keeps in touch, but he typically doesn't notice it. What he does notice is if we go to a fast food restaurant, if we go to retail, and before serving me, they'll ask him, "Son, are you okay? Are you lost?" It makes him very uncomfortable. And
whoa, jeez.
So I can't remember how many times he's so used to it that he doesn't question it anymore. Typically what he does is he gets closer to me, like he almost hides in my back. But that has been from day one until even today. So, but does he say anything when they stare? He really doesn't. He doesn't know better. But Ebony, that's a good question, but he doesn't understand. Like I said earlier, he doesn't understand when I say, James, please turn, look at these people, wave and smile. If I'm on I-95, Marcus, not that I speed, because the word of God tells us to obey the laws of the land. However, if by chance I pass someone, I have noticed that people have sped back up, slow down on the side of me, and just slowly turn and look at James. I just tell him to wave. Just wave, James. Just wave.
Wow.
Again, Brian, I think it shows a level of commitment to being a parent, because I still say the same things. Even though Camille is not mine biologically, you still have the same defense mechanism built in to protect your child, right? That I did for Camille that you have for James.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I've never thought about that. I'm sure that it's a little disturbing, but do you understand people's ignorance? You do. You just come to understand people's ignorance, and you don't get offended. You're right, Brian. You just have to let it be water off your back. My next question, and Chris, I'm sorry, honey, did you have a question? I had a question I want to ask Brian.
I'm just sitting here thinking about how you've given him such a wonderful opportunity in life so far. Like I know earlier we were talking about how the private organization allows you to be able to have funding that can help you to expose, the children to different things. And I know, like we've talked about camps, different things educational wise that he's been exposed to. And every time I see him, he's always, just sharp as a tack from head to toe. And but it says something to me that says this is a parent that cares, not only on paper, but, and that's why, I'm really reaching out, parents, if you are parenting children that are of an opposite race, please make sure that they are represented in the best light, that when they're with you or if they're seen by someone else, and I'm big on this hair thing because, especially as an African-American woman, I got put on blast last night. I went to see Kev on stage. It was so fun. I have to say this. And I had on my ball cap, but I was trying to be cute. But he was doing a little comedy set. And he came up to me. He was like, I prophesy. He said, I see you in that hat. And I see that you're trying to get your hair done. And that's why you can't. He got me, Brian. And I was like, oh, my. But, and so I looked at that and I was like, I should have known better. And so hair is, and I just say this because, and the Bible even talks about the crown, like a woman's hair is her crown, especially if you have a female child, that you do the best you can, that you reach out to, those who are outside of your race that know how to cultivate it. It's not taken away from who you are. And I think what you've done with James is you said, I'm not going to be selfish in this. This is my child and I'm going to love him. And I'm going to also, as time goes, because he's going on, approaching 18 and, he's approaching, manhood and his young adult years and all of that. And so relationships are going to be important for him. And he's going to, need to see that I can have relationships that are a part of who I am, where I come from, as well as what I'm used to in my family. And it's a blessing in that because he'll be received by many, because of those experiences. And that's what I believe. So I'm just, just thinking about all these things.
I think, Brian, this is the great thing about adopting across race is that that child gets a chance to experience their culture that they can identify with, but they're also learning a different culture.
Absolutely.
And they're learning it under the umbrella of safety.
Yeah.
I think that's a really cool thing that I think we don't take enough time to really look at. And the one thing that I see some parents that have adopted across race is they don't give that child a chance to experience their culture. So what do you mean by that, Marcus? I mean, let's just be straight up honest. All right. This is one thing I have to touch on because it's real. I don't care if it is James, if Brian, just to say you did not allow James to identify with his Caucasian culture. I don't care how much James wanted to be black. Mm-hmm. Society is always going to view him as what? White. And that's okay. Why? Because he is white. But the beauty of him living with you and experiencing culture, different cultures, it's under the umbrella of safety. It's under the umbrella of care and love. And that's why I am completely for cultures adopting a cross race. Why? Because you get a cross pollination.
Well, and can I say this, Brian? It's also changing your world because we know you growing up in a truly African American. You go to church in an African American church. We know that. And so this is interesting because now you're saying to yourself that, you know what, I am allowing myself to be open to now learning outside of who I am, for the sake of my son. It's just like, both of us, we have a desire for Major, our son right now, who I truly believe at age 6 sees no color still. And I think it's really because that we have we've been so grateful to have families that have embraced friendships with him, whether it be on the sports team or, he knows, you may see that there's not anyone else that's just like him, but he's cool with it. Yeah. He actually may even think it's a little cool, that he is, but, there's still that friendship. There's not that feeling of less than, there's not that feeling of, difference. We haven't crossed that yet, as far as like with having to say, hey, some people feel this way and that's why. Mm-hmm. I mean, we will teach that. We'll educate that. Just like you have to, educate him on why the things are going down the way they are.
So Brian, can you give some more? Oh, go ahead, Brian. I'm sorry. Please go ahead.
Oh no, I was listening to one of the things that Crystal said again. Females, regardless, there's more races, of course, than black and white. We have several. My friends, my associates, my colleagues are of all cultures. So I lean on all of them for parenting advice, especially those who've been parenting longer than me. But yeah, the hair thing, whether it's a male child or a girl child, is going to always be an issue. But take, for example, one of the things, I don't know if I ever told you before, was I was trying to make sure that when I dressed him, that not only did I give him the little boy experience, make sure he had the perfect tie for Easter, things of that nature, a cute suit, but I tried to make sure it's impossible for me, I think, for church to make him look African American. I know some people say, well, if you add a certain style to a suit, I just bought him regular suits. If Crystal, you don't remember taking me shopping, but one of the things somebody had to bring to my attention was when he started to have his own opinion about clothing, and he wanted to wear some clothing that I thought was maybe either too urban, or I thought it was too skateboardish looking. I had to remember, you know what? Not only, although he is white, may not be important, because I'm not trying to raise him to be black or white. I know you know where I'm going. I still got to let him be a child, period. And every child goes through a phase where they want to try some clothing. But luckily, I had good enough friends for somebody to mention it to me and say, Brian, relax. It's okay. Yeah. Everybody has the best intention.
Yeah.
Just let him be, let him experience. And so I did. So what does he wear now? Everything. Okay. Everything. So. Yeah.
Well, no, that's cool. I mean, and that means that he's a teenager. That's all that means. That he's just, he's not feeling like he has to, and like I say, now I'm thinking about Camille, when they were in high school, it was just all about, well, who are you hanging with, and the more you know who, then you just kind of know why they make the choices they make. And it sounds like he's just in that normal phase of life with you.
Yes.
Yeah, we were in, like 8 years ago.
So, Brian, I think, hair care, I get it. Yeah. Ask ask for help. how do you, in terms of dating, how do you vet the people that you're dating to make sure that align with your family dynamic, right? And that, you know, they don't pose, they're not threatened and they don't pose a threat, right? So how do you manage that?
Believe it or not, I don't. I just don't. I don't vet, because to make sure that I'm treating him as my child, I decided I'm very careful when I you know I'm peculiar anyway. So when I see a female and we're dating, and if she asks me, "Do you have any children?" or we talk about her children, I explain to her, "Yes, I adopted a child." "Oh yeah, white male." I always say, I don't even say white male. I say, "Yeah, blue eyes, blonde hair." Anybody can typically figure out that would most likely mean Caucasian. I've never had any of the females who I've dated say that was a problem. So if it was the relationship was to go further and it became a problem for them, then the problem would be for them. It wouldn't be for me. And that's how I feel about it, because just as, you know, when the word of God says, though we were Gentiles, he provided salvation to us and we are now his children. We are legally his children. There is no discussion about it. He's justified us and everything. It's the same thing with him. Legally, he is mine. It doesn't have to be biological, because it's legal. Because it's legal, that transcends anything else that's needed. I mean, does that make sense? So if I meet a female who is not willing to accept them, then what did the rapper say? What did the songwriter say? On to the next one. That's where we go. On to the next one.
The approach that I think the single mother, you know, not saying it could be this. Now we're talking about the single father, but I know that now we're dealing with single fatherhood right now with what you're saying, because that's a whole nother piece, you know. And we have another friend that, you know, we could, I was thinking about as well, that we could maybe bring on just in dealing with single fatherhood, because that's just huge in itself, you know, raising and taking on the whole responsibility. And I remember what you said about some of the women, you know, that little nurturing side of us, like, well, do you know how to use the comb? Can you? I could just see that, because we assume that that's what we can, you know, only, and you always hear, well, dads can't, oh Lord, we were left with dad and we had hair all over our heads looking crazy, you know. And our buddy Anjan, you know, I think he broke that mold. He did a video maybe a couple months ago where he was neatly braiding his daughter's hair and showing that, hey, you know, got it down, you know. And so I just think that, you know, it's just so important that, you know, we even talk about things like that, just how, you know, you're having to take on both of these concepts, you know. In essence, you know, there's some things about the nurturing end, and I'm so grateful, like you said, about mom and how your family has embraced him, because you have enough mothers that are surrounding him, that are giving him that element. But then now you provide the strength, you provide and Marcus, you used the word, you said that he felt safe, but I tell you what it really is, he felt loved, and true love. It comes with things like, you know, feeling safe and feeling secure that this person is not just, you know, oh, you know, is this temporary or what, you know, am I going to be gone in the next, you know, not having to look behind my back and all this stuff, but he felt confidence, you know.
Marcus, I think I'm more embarrassed because I know he can hear me. The first day this boy came to me, I gave him a towel, luxury towel and everything, had his little bedroom, set him everything. He comes out the shower butt naked. Well, what is you doing? Oh, I'm just going to my room. No, son. Too comfortable. But having said that, the reason why I say that is because when you talk about safety,
yeah,
the one thing I noticed about most foster kids, the average foster kid, when they would speak with their mother, their grandmother, whatever relative that they were still connected with, when they spoke with their social worker or their placement coordinator, the one thing they always said is, oh, I slept good last night. Oh, I was comfortable, which opened my eyes that safety was a real issue. One thing that people don't consider, even in school, people don't understand kids don't feel safe. So one of the reasons why, Marcus, we were discussing this earlier, one of the reasons why some of these kids go out and act as if they don't have any home training is because regardless of what training they do have, if they don't feel safe at home, they're constantly on the defense and always worried. Remember we discussed that earlier? So it's easy for me to understand why some kids act the way they do. But remember, I told you the first week he came, some of my students came around, a ton of them that looked like us. He said to me plainly, I've never, I didn't grow up around brown people.
Wow.
And so because and so I said, well, it's okay. They're not going to harm you. The one thing where the average person would have gotten defensive, I chose not to. And so I simply said to him, son, you're going to come in contact with a lot of people. Within a month of him being with me, he says out of the blue, I love brown people. I love Jesus. Now, it says a lot. People don't understand what we impose on kids. A lot of the way kids turn out bad is simply because what we have said and what we have shown them and what we have exposed to him.
Absolutely.
And so he said this in front of if I remember correctly, an elderly lady. And the lady looked at me and said, what did his family do to him? What did somebody do to him? I said, ma'am, I don't know. She said to me, if he's telling you he loves brown people and he loves Jesus, she brought this to my attention. He feels safe. He feels loved. And you make sure you keep that provided in his life. I hate to say old black women, they're going to put their, especially in the church, they're going to put their 2 cents in, and many of them did. And they still check on him to this day. When we come in, and you best not disrespect one of the mothers of the church, or you're going to get a rebuking. So I had to teach him, hey, that's a mother of the church, son. Not your mother, but a mother of the church. When she asks you questions, stop. Don't be in a rush. Because it ain't gonna matter. They're not gonna release you until they're. That's just some culture. That's just some culture.
Culture.
Definitely.
Wow. Yeah.
No, that's good stuff. So Brian, are you looking at adopting any more children in the future?
Well, remember, James was the second child I tried to adopt. The first child I tried to adopt was African American male, but plainly stated, discrimination and prejudice jumped in. And let me clarify. There was a child that was on the news. The news here where I live at one point in time was running weekly ads of children who were up for adoption. So they would do an interview, say what the child's likes are, what their strengths are, and then they may interview the foster parent or a representative from an agency, whether it be DSS or a private agency, and they would say, well, this child needs this type of love, this type of support. And so I called. It was in a rural county, a county that's mostly rural, but has a city in it, and actually has at least one military base. I don't want to put them out. I don't want to put my state of North Carolina out like that. But I called. The lady said she was interested. She told me to call whenever I was in the area, and I could meet the child. On 2 or 3 different occasions, I did this. I gave her my referrals, my recommendation, my referrals, people that she can contact for a character reference, one of them being a supervisor. And after about 6 months, finally, I asked my supervisor if she ever got the call. She told me she did. I'm gonna speed it up. And not only did she get the call, I said, well, why do you think they're not returning my calls? And, people, now this supervisor is no longer in position. They've moved on to bigger and better things. She said, I probably shouldn't tell you this, but because it did not directly correlate with what we were doing confidentiality wise, she said, I'm gonna tell you. She called me, she asked me questions, and the question was, why would an educated black male who is single want to adopt a child? When you're dealing with adoption, when you're dealing with foster care, there's an element. Even when you're dealing with education, there's an element you're never supposed to, a line you're never supposed to cross. It's not your business. If a person is single or married, you can find that out. That can be a strength or a weakness. Their sexual preference, their dating status, things of that nature. But she was making some assumptions, and my supervisor went beyond the call of duty and said, not that it's any of your business, but he is dating someone, and it is a female. But that doesn't have anything to do with this. He's a wonderful person, or else I would not have allowed him to be with this agency. He's had over 6 years. Long story short, another 6 months went by. I called her. I finally called her supervisor, and the supervisor finally said, well, I'm sorry to tell you, but that child has been adopted by a 2-parent family. I'm not quite sure why that was stated, but it was. And I said to her, this social worker didn't return several of my calls. And I just made a complaint, not a formal or an official complaint, and I moved on. So yes, the first child I tried to adopt. Having said that, Marcus, from then on, from all the kids I've ever dealt with, I don't want to necessarily be a whistleblower, but I feel like sometimes people who are in power feel as if they're making the world better by forcing or pushing interracial adoptions. Why not just push adoption? Why does it have to be interracial? Just push adoption. Whoever is available, let it be. Let life go where it is. But I will tell you, those cute little African American kids that you've seen walking around, I've never been brought, not one, ever. In 13 years, the smallest, cutest kids I've ever been brought have all been severely abused or damaged. The youngest one I ever was suffering from brain damage.
Wow.
So you tell me, I've been willing to adopt for over 10 years. Why hasn't the conversation come up? I don't know. I can't speak to that, but it says a lot.
That's huge right there, because that makes me say, if I can just be real with what came to my mind, it's almost like, when you go to the pet store and you're looking for that pet that's cute and little versus the one that hasn't had any, that was born of the the mother immediately and wasn't put out into society and didn't have any challenges, or how was that birth? Was it, were they drug addicts or, that kind of thing. And so then there's this hierarchy, there's this ramp of, how they're, and I don't know, I'm just looking at this like, wow, you're right. Like, is it, everyone's dream to have this cute African-American child with, these little curls and, oh, they're just so cute. And is that what you're doing? Or is it really a life that you're wanting to like change because you see what has happened with that life? And you brought it up, Brian, so I had to look at that and say, what is going on? Because, and I don't know, was that family African-American or were they not? Do you know? They didn't tell you.
I was told, if I remember correctly, it wasn't a black family. It was a black family.
So there can be discrimination, Brian. What you're telling me, you can be discriminated against because you're single and not married, or single male and not married.
Oh, absolutely.
Y'all, people that are listening out there, wow. So I think, Brian, you're educated. I know we've been educated today.
Yes.
I hope the people that are listening can be educated that I really know love has no color. Brian, I thank you that there are good brothers out there, good people out there that are willing to adopt regardless of race, because at the end of the day, it's about loving and caring for a child. So I know man, you've given us a whole hour of your time. I definitely want to have you back.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that we ought to bring Brian back and talk about the adoption piece a little bit deeper, because we were considering.
We still are.
Okay.
Amen.
We still adopting.
I learned
one more.
But Marcus, I do have one more comment. For because I always worry. I'm not as bad as I used to be. I know you remember this. Always worried about what people thought. There's always going to be that one person that says, well, why did it have to be a white kid? Why couldn't you adopt a black kid? I kind of just said why, but you also know, Marcus, you've been on the phone when I've had other black children in the car that weren't foster kids, that are from the community. If I wanted to name how many kids I consider my own, that I consider that I mentor, that I'm a father to them in some sense, the numbers would be over 20. So there's several: Black, Caucasian, Indian, Asian. There's tons of kids. So just in case there's that one person that wants to put a comment up later on Facebook, well, what about other Black kids? I mentor any and everybody. If you're open to mentorship, hey, I'm there for you. As long as you don't rob me.
But I think we both even just felt that this was a leading of the Lord, more than anything, with you, because we were there, like when you all came down and visited. I think you were about to do the process, or you had just finished, because was it Thanksgiving?
Right.
It was right around it. And so I remember I was just like, wow, being able to spend time with them for that week and just really just seeing look, what this, look, oh Jesus, what this this is real. This doesn't feel like, synthetic fiber. This feels like there's life in this relationship. This is not like, oh, this is awkward, we signed a paper and then I'm just your protector. No, you are fathering this child. This is your son. And and I just love it. I love it because hey, we can do life in those experiences together too. But I just think you're helping so many people with talking about the racial things that go on, like you said, in society, even on the flip, with having him there and people thinking, well, is he okay? Because and he's getting older, and I know he's taller. Is he real tall? So I mean, I'm
my height. He thinks he's taller than me.
Well, see,
he probably is, but I just don't want him to know that yet. But but yeah, he's 6'1".
Wow. Marcus,
His biological father is 6'3". So.
Wow. Okay. So we need to put him in Carolina basketball camp.
Yeah. Help me pay for it. Amen. Hallelujah.
Come on.
Did you see my comment? Did you see my comment, Marcus?
Let me see. Wow.
Ooh.
Wow. And I think
that is a phenomenon nobody's bringing attention to.
Wow.
People are giving foster children back. Giving them back into the system. Wow.
Nobody wants to talk about it, but it has happened on so many occasions.
Wow.
Wow. Hey, Brian, you know what? We're going to have to bring you back because I think this is a great topic. There are couples out there that want to have kids,
right,
but they can't. So adoption is the alternative they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
They're considering it. And I think that having someone on the show like you that has experienced it really would be a great thing to explore a little further and answer some questions. So what we'll do next time here coming up soon, maybe in the November, December timeframe or next year, is get some questions going and have them ready. Yeah, maybe in a couple of weeks. But man, I want to say thank you so much, man, for joining us. Tell James I said hello. Tell him we both said hello, and Brian, just want to say thank you, man. I want this to be shared. Y'all share this update. If you want to know any more about Marcus Home, just go to Strong Blend, type in # Strong Blend, # Strong Blend on Facebook. That's a way to get in contact with us. You can also go to on Facebook.com. You go to Marcus A. Homes, right? And Instagram is the same. Instagram, Twitter, it's all Marcus, middle initial A, Homes. Get with us. Brian, you're doing some great things, man, not only as a teacher, not only as an educator, a social worker, but being a father, helping these young men and boys become men. So I just want to say kudos to you, man. You're awesome. Keep doing it, buddy. Stay encouraged. And just want to let you know we love you. Yes, Crystal had
in this hour where fatherlessness is such a huge issue in the world, much less in our country. I just want to applaud you because you have been an example of what it means to be a father. Christ was the father. Look, we are all adopted. We're all his adopted children. We're not official lineage of Jesus Christ, but by the adoption. And so I look at what you're doing as such an example of what it means to take those, when it says he's married to the backslider, it's almost like, I think about that relationship. No matter what we've been through, no matter what we did, he still takes us in and he loves us and he's adopted us. And so if anyone has a question why you do what you do, I think it's the love of God, number one, is in your life. And I just think that it's a huge example that if you want to know what fatherhood is about, it's about taking and picking up the slack for someone and seeing that life, you have a seed giving in your words alone. There's seed life that you can pour into another child. So thank you so much. All
right, buddy. I'll talk to you later, man. Give you a call later on this week. You have a good one. Facebook family, YouTube family, web family, internet family. Just want to let you know we're the blended family. I'm the blended family guy. This is the blended family. Out of no disrespect, the girl, my girlfriend, she's still doing it. We're still making it happen. We got to go spend some time with our son. So we're checking out before we put him in bed. We're going to spend some time with him. We'll catch you next week. Talk to you later. Love you guys. Remember, take your family from just surviving to overwhelmingly thriving. You can make it. You will make it. Don't give up on your family. Talk to you all soon. Bye.
Bye.